What got you interested into this online world? What was your first introduction?
My ex-husband is one of the founders of JVZoo. I was just always looking over his shoulder and learning. Then I went through a phase where I didn't want to be the person who couldn't hold a conversation about what he was doing. So I was always going and getting the next programming book from the local Barnes and Noble.
Someone's starting out, right? Because we have a lot of listeners too that are building their first funnel, right? Getting their first few sales, trying to get their first 2 Comma Club award. How different is it, if anything, if you're just starting out?
So I think you have to have a clear idea of what your business is. What are you doing? What are you serving, right? Who are you serving? And then you have to know, especially when you're starting out, you can't say yes to everything. So you've got to stay your course. And even if you're saying no, you can tell customers.
Welcome to ClickFunnels Radio, the podcast that brings you the latest strategies, insights, and success stories from online marketers just like you who utilize funnels to grow their business. Our mission is simple: to help you unleash the true potential of your online business by harnessing the power of funnels. Join us every week as we bring you exclusive interviews and thought-provoking discussions that will revolutionize the way you approach online marketing. Here are your hosts, Chris Cameron and Ben Harris.
All right, everybody, welcome back to ClickFunnels Radio. We have someone here today who just personally I have known in passing. It seems like over a decade now, have admired her work from afar, inside and outside, personally, professionally, and has a career that I completely admire. And it's my pleasure to introduce best-selling author, CEO of multiple million-dollar companies, Laura Casselman. Laura, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me join you today.
Of course. I appreciate your time. I know we do not take it lightly, and we're going to dive into a lot of things and impact lives, and everyone's going to learn a whole lot here. So I appreciate you taking the time to share some knowledge of your experiences in your life.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what we're here to do, right? Share our experiences, see who it helps, and do our best to just progress ourselves and help others along the way.
Heck yeah, absolutely. So I'd want to dive in, and as you know, our ClickFunnels audience, they're very into funnels, right? And online marketing and being able to make enough money to either pay for any goal that they have in life, or supplement their own income from a job, what have you. And as somebody who has gained quite the presence over the, on the internet over the years, what got you interested into this online world? What was your first introduction?
So I think by now, a lot of people know that my ex-husband is one of the founders of JVZoo. And from our dating, from when we were very young and him being a computer programmer, I was just always looking over his shoulder and learning. Then I went through a phase where I didn't want to be the person who couldn't hold a conversation about what he was doing. So I was always going and getting the next programming book from the local Barnes and Noble in Greensboro, North Carolina, where I went to college. And I couldn't afford those very expensive programming books. So I bought one and I just kept exchanging it for the next one. And luckily, when the manager realized what I was doing, he let me keep doing it. But it just progressed that as my life grew and changed, and I was retiring from my professional dance career in New York. I had already been out in the corporate world. I was already an executive. I thought, what's next? And JVZoo at the time needed help. And I was there, and I was already passionate about it from speaking constantly with my ex-husband. I knew that they loved the project, and I thought, okay, I'm going to dive in. And I was so green. I had read all these programming books back in the day, but I was not a programmer and I wasn't up to date. And I just went head first in 2014 into JVZoo world.
Very cool. And you mentioned you were an executive in the corporate world. Were you still into anything that dealt with online marketing or anything of that nature? What was your career like there?
No, I was their VP of operations, but it was even though a national chain, very New York City centralized. And so it was a lot of like face-to-face, like I don't want to say knocking on doors, but it was building personal relationships face-to-face still.
Okay, which I'm sure paid dividends into what you're doing now tenfold at this point.
Yes.
And diving in 2014, totally into JVZoo. And actually, real quick, one step back, for those listeners or viewers who happen to live under a rock, what is JVZoo?
Okay, so JVZoo is an affiliate network and an online marketplace. We have over 1 million active affiliates to date, and we just help facilitate everything from splitting the payments to, letting people who have a ClickFunnels funnel set it up, utilize our affiliate base, and making sure everyone gets paid on time, and everything happens seamlessly for them.
Very cool. And it's been something that has, not only been a huge catalyst in the affiliate marketing industry, but created how many millionaires would you say at this point? How many thousands? Yeah.
I really wish I knew an astronomical amount. We finally said, we give the notifications within the system, but I don't pull the report, and I should. But it is, when I see someone who's made $15 million, $20 million on JVZoo, I'm mind blown by it, right?
So cool.
How cool is that?
Yeah. And with, again, diving into this world, what was the first moment where you're like, I'm on the main stage? Like, this is stepping into that light. What was that like for you? Imposter syndrome, walk us through that, if anything.
I rarely experience imposter syndrome. I'm not going to say never, but it's rarely, because I do the work. And so I feel like that, when you do the work and you show up authentically and honestly, then you may not know everything, and that's okay, because you're willing to admit, hey, I don't know that. Tell me more about that. And I'm always learning. Like, I feel like I'm a human being who's growing, always learning. But when I felt like, whoa, okay, I'm at the forefront of this, I think it might have been actually the second time I was at the Inc. 5000. And I was looking around at these incredible people and just like, whoa, I didn't really, the first time I was kind of starstruck. But then the second time, I think being there, I was looking around and I was like, I'm not at a convention that I paid to be at. I have been invited here, and these are my peers. And realizing that these were my peers, as opposed to like, I'm just trying to like wave to Tony Robbins. No, he's speaking to me because he's speaking to us specifically as the group that's been invited here.
Very cool. It's my grandma used to always tell me, like, everyone puts on shoes the same way, or everyone ties their shoes the same way and stuff. And it's, at any point, maybe even speaking personally, if I've experienced, imposter syndrome, I do know that I'm growing, right? And pushing myself and pushing the boundaries, you're in the right spot.
That's right.
And that's admirable too, of, second time being in Inc. 5000, which, top 1% of companies ever reach. With coming into, this industry, what was the first job you had within JVZoo? Did you go from executive to running this company as well?
No. So I stepped back from my executive position when I came to JVZoo and came in as a consultant. I was just doing some consultant work. And I remember I was in the support desk all the time. I was trying to see what the users were experiencing, but it's a great way to learn a platform, is to get in the support desk. And from my previous roles in other companies, I believed in working every position in the company. So if it was a company that I was answering telephones, which I'm awful at, I'm the worst receptionist in the world. I have so much respect for anyone who's a receptionist, but I really think it's important so that you understand and don't take for granted the people who you work with. So working in the help desk was huge for me at JVZoo. And then eventually they said, hey, we want you to be our COO. And from there, it was not long at all, months before I became their CEO.
Very cool. I don't know if you know this, even from personal experience, I also started at ClickFunnels answering support questions as well. Like, maybe from a sales perspective, even just conversational, the more I know the ins and outs of whichever product or company that I'm working for, I feel like the better conversations I can have, because I can actually listen to somebody right before I'm thinking in my head of what I need to say back, or what I need to see to help them, where I can actually just understand their problems and their issues and, take it and recite it back. Right.
And truly, if you want to know what's working and what's not working in your company, go through your help desk tickets.
Huge.
You can quickly see what people are frustrated with, what people love. People love to give their feedback. You get in your help desk, you can quickly find out what's working and what's not working.
Is that something you still do today at all, or maybe someone on your team? What's that look like now?
No, so I still do it. Of course, I'm the person that really intense tickets get escalated to, of course, but I like to randomly pop in a few times a month. And maybe I do it because I'm up at 5 a.m. and I know that my help desk, no one's on the desk right then. So maybe I think, you know what, I'm going to help my help desk out today and I'm just going to clear them out so they come into no tickets. And so sometimes I get in there, I answer tickets. Other times I just pull random tickets. If there's one that scored high, if there's one that scored low, I just want to see maybe if I can figure out why it was scored high or low. And if it's low and I can't figure it out, I'll reach out to the customer and I'll just say, hi, it's Laura. I'm the CEO of JVZoo. I see you just rated a support ticket poorly. What would have made your experience better? And you learn a lot that way too. You also learn that there are just some people in the world that are angry and upset and nothing's going to make them happy. And that's okay. That's okay. You just let it go. But a lot of times you can learn, oh, I see. And I see what was frustrating and I can resolve issues company-wide at that point in time.
That's very, very true. And not only across, what we do for a living, but multiple industries as well. Like anyone who's listening to this that's in, local business, we do have a lot of listeners who are in the brick and mortar industry. And even, I guess, from a story standpoint, and you know this about my background, but being from the same area of the Grand Strand, my dad is still to this day a manager of restaurants, and it's with dissatisfied customers, right? He always loves just hearing about how to improve their experience, and then again bringing them back, creating a customer for life. And it's a testament that you're doing that at JVZoo actively, right? Still to this day. Yeah. For someone starting out, right? Because we have a lot of listeners too that are building their first funnel, right? Getting their first few sales, trying to get their first 2 Comma Club award. Yeah. How different is it, if anything, if you're just starting out with listening to your customer?
To listen to your customer if you're just starting out? Right. Okay, so I think you have to have a clear idea of what your business is. What are you doing? What are you serving, right? Who are you serving? And then you have to know, especially when you're starting out, you can't say yes to everything. So you've got to stay your course. And even if you're saying no, you can tell customers no in a polite way. You can let them know that's great feedback. I absolutely see why you would want this. Unfortunately, at this time, we're not going to be providing that, but I am going to add it to our list of features or whatnot for down the road. And you will find that, yes, when you are planning out year 2, year 5, you'll go back and look at those things and say, do these make sense for how my company is evolving now? A lot of times there'll still be a no, but sometimes you're like, this is where we're going now.
That's huge. Have you felt, in your time running a company that you've gone back to, I don't want to call it a backlog, but something like that of, oh my gosh, I would have forgotten this if I did not keep track of that 2 years ago. And now it aligns perfectly where we're headed. Could you dive into that at all for us, if that's true?
Absolutely. So anyone that knows anything about me knows that I am a big pen to paper person. I run tech companies, but I am pen to paper. Yes. Well, and it's associated with more robust brain activity. More so than putting notes in your phone or on your computer, typing them. When you physically write, you have more robust brain activity. So I think there's a lot to say about that. But I keep running lists, and I'm a big notebook person. I'll show you right now, tons of these black notebooks, and I mark them. Different tabs mean different things.
I love it.
So I know when I'm now going to go back and look at things, which color tab to pull up. So I'll look at all of them when we're deciding or planning the next year to say, hey, with what we decided prior to this list, right? Prior to looking at other people's feedback, with where we know with this company we're headed, which of these things fits in there? How can we make some customers happy? If I noted who opened that support ticket or suggested it, I may even go and write them like the week of the feature rolling out to say, hey, remember 2 years ago when you asked for this? We're finally getting to that now. And I just wanted to let you know I hadn't forgotten about you.
That's awesome. To know me, I sometimes play the role of like the curious 5-year-old that always kind of digging into questions and asking why. So you are completely welcome to shut down this question. If it's, too much of a peek under the hood, I'm not offended. Yeah. Could you share any stories of that? Maybe a customer experience, an improvement that you made? Again, welcome to do vague or dig deep, but something where it's like a customer suggested something that not only enhanced their experience inside your platform, but the entire company overall.
Oh yeah. I mean, for the longest time, JVZoo was like, we're digital downloadable products only. We are not getting into the physical realm. Well, then the day came that we were like, we have to allow our people to sell physical products. So we started planning that out. And then we said, okay, we also understand the business aspect of this, not only because our users wanted it, but it lowers a refund. When there's a physical product, it lowers the amount of refunds that come with a digital product. So yeah, it was a business decision, but then I got to reach back out to a lot of people to say, and I had a list of people's business cards as well that I had kept, that I'd written on the back from being at events like TNC or Affiliate Summit, who had said, when JVZoo lets me do physical products, I'll come over. And I had a stack of business cards that I sat down with my team and I said, hey, let's reach out to all of these people. Because I wrote on the card what event I was at, what year it was, what it was they sold. And I said, let's look. If they're still online, if they're still selling, we reach out.
That's amazing. And there's this book, and I'm going to butcher the title, but I think it's something about like top 10 things the rich want to keep secret or something like that. Whoever wrote it, I remember his first name was Brian, but there was something in there about, the biggest kept secret in business is just listen to your customers, right? And give them what they want it doesn't take some rocket science idea or astrophysics. It's really just kind of what problem do they have right now and can we enhance to solve it? And it's pretty simple, right? It's being a human and doing that in those regards. You brought up something I really want to unpack at length, and keeping a book of Rolodex from individuals you met at events. And the more I grow in this industry, I love to pry and ask questions. And so many people speak volumes to networking. And there's just something about shaking somebody's hand in, first person, or that's not the right word. What is it? 3-dimensional realm, not through a screen. How has that impacted your career?
Greatly. And I have always been social. Prior to coming into this world, I was a professional dancer. I was always, doing events and out there and an extrovert, so to speak. So when I came into this industry, I wanted to get out there and meet as many people as possible, learn from people. Sometimes it was sitting through the actual event, but a lot of times it was just networking, saying, hi, how can I help you? What can I do for your business? And if nothing, still just knowing if I could connect that person to someone else that could help them in their business, because being a connector is a very great role to play in life. Maybe you get nothing out of it now, but you never know what will come in return 2-3 years down the road when you're connected. But also, so when the pandemic came and everything kind of shut down, it worked great for me personally because I was pregnant at that time. So it was nice that things shut down and I got to take a step back from always being on an airplane, always being on the road. But then as things started coming back up, I had either a newborn or a 1-year-old. And I didn't want to travel that much because, well, moms are physically needed. I mean, we just, we're needed during a certain time of our children's lives. So it had been about 2 years. My daughter was 2, and people started messaging me saying, like, Laura, you're never anywhere anymore. I'm like, what do you mean I'm never anywhere? And they're like people are wondering where you are, what's going on with you. And I'm like, well, I'm always online. Everyone's seeing me post, everyone's seeing this. And they're like, no, it's strange not because my competitors were out more than me, but because everyone was so used to seeing me that when they didn't, it was strange for them. So now that I'm back on the road and networking, I can definitely say, I see the difference in the business as well.
Interesting. And it is, it's a relationship industry, and even, I guess no matter where you're at in your business, if you want to equate that to revenue, impact, there's always people that will be willing to help and other people you can help in return. And I hate being cliche, but it's the whole thing of, givers gain, and a rising tide, lifts all ships. And just to echo your statement of when you play the role of a connector, it is just basic human nature, right? The law of reciprocity, that it will come back tenfold when you always have that in mind. And I've been in this game long enough to know when people are out for themselves. And
yes.
I mean, do hate, I'm not a negative person by nature, but I will say in confidence, you won't be here very long. If that is intentions of, whether it's for yourself, company, etc. So with being back out on the road and you seeing the impact of what is happening with your business, can you tell us about maybe certain goals you have in mind when it comes to going to an event? Do you go to an event of, hey, these bullet list of things I want to accomplish need to happen, and also traveling with your daughter, which I've seen on social media? That's super cool. Elaborate on both of those for us.
Okay. So it depends on the event. If I have, or I always have a plan. So it's not if I have a plan, I always do have a plan, but it depends on the event. The first time I was in Dubai this year, I was speaking at a very, JVZoo specific type event. The user base of JVZoo and one or two competitors was who the audience was going to be. So I knew specifically who I was there to speak to, who I wanted to, recruit over to JVZoo, and the message I wanted to get out for our industry, no matter where anyone was, what platform you use. This is our industry that feeds our children. Let's make sure we protect it kind of message. So yes, I had a plan for that. There are other places that I go that maybe I'm only teaching, or if I'm speaking there, I'm teaching about business in general, business growth, how to manage teams. And my message is simply like, here's what I know. How can I help you? Kind of thing.
Very cool.
Yeah. So yeah, always have a plan. And then you can plan all you want to when you travel with a toddler, and it's going to probably go awry. But yes, I do travel with my 3-year-old. She's actually a fantastic traveler. I am so fortunate in that respect. And recently she did travel. I believe she did let me think about this. She did a 2-hour flight, followed by a 2-hour layover, followed by a 7-hour flight, 12-hour layover, 8.5-hour flight.
Holy cow.
0 meltdowns. And I was prepared for them, because how much are toddlers supposed to process in life? Yeah. But she's a great traveler. She knew, like on our 12-hour layover, she just kept saying, like, even when she'd wake up, I just need to nap some more. And she would go back and nap. One time she got up, she's never worn an eye mask before. She gets up and she says, I just need an eye mask. And she naps more. I don't know. She sees other people on the planes. But yeah, I think exposing my child to these things is highly important, because she knows the world. It's large, it's not that big.
Yeah, very cool. And kudos to you as well. I'm sure you'll be a Purple Heart recipient at some point for having all the traveling with your daughter, for sure. What's that like, working while traveling with your daughter as well? What's the day-to-day structure like? Have you had to figure that out on the go? Explain that to us.
Yeah, so it takes a village, and I have a great village. So I'm really fortunate to have a nanny that can travel with me and do things with me. She's 21, tons of energy, and truly like my other daughter at this point in time. And I rely a lot on her when we travel. So, and we learned together, the two of us. The first time wasn't so smooth. We planned before the second time. We talked through things. Each night we talk about, hey, this is what we're looking at tomorrow. Here's my schedule tomorrow. Here's when I'm going to need you fully to be on. And then here's when I'm going to come back and take on 100% mom duties, and you go out and explore and get, do what you want to do.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. Almost, very similar to the role, of an assistant, right? It's kind of like, your business at home, and going the same way. Like, I with my assistant, we review my schedule and looking at, what's to come, whether it's, the week, the month, the quarter, kind of always keeping our finger on the pulse. So that's really neat to kind of see that stretch over into family life as well from a structural standpoint.
Absolutely. And it's really about communication, and also respecting the people that work for you. Like, I think a lot of times people travel with nannies and don't understand they cannot work 24/7. So knowing that you're like still being a mother, you're still a parent. So I want to raise my child. I don't want anyone else to raise her. So I make sure to say, hey, you're off duty now. Like, you can hang out with us. You do whatever you want to with us, but this is now my responsibility.
That's very cool. And admirable as well. So one thing I wanted to hit on that I know our audience is always just very curious of from business leaders, and I guess my opinions could definitely be strayed, but even really whether it's a company of 2 people or 100, I do think culture building, it doesn't change a whole lot in between then. Obviously, it changes because it gets more and stuff like that, but it's very different when it's remote. And a lot of our listeners do have employees all throughout the globe, as I know you do as well. What's it like being a CEO of a company that I guess we could say, is it 100% virtual or 100% remote or mainly remote? How would you define it?
So we give 100% telecommuting. We have office space and people can come in if they want to.
So, gotcha. So we're really the same way here in Boise, Idaho. With managing a team that, in that hybrid model, is culture building different? How do you bridge that gap?
So, I honestly prefer this. After having spent decades in office as an employee and knowing not only how people waste time, but how I wasted time myself as an employee, right?
Guilty. Yeah.
I decided to manage people the way I wished I had been managed. And that is to do a thorough interview process, know I'm hiring the right people with the right skill set, and then to treat them like mature adults. I don't manage their time schedules. We are very clear on this is the expectation. This is what you need to achieve by this date. And then I don't care if you have a dentist appointment, if your child has a soccer game, if you're going to go and get your hair done at such and such time. I don't care. I don't want to know. That's just wasting brain space. I don't want to give it away easily. So I let my people be mature adults, and I don't not trust them until they give me a reason to. And this isn't baseball. This is a job. So you get one warning and the next time you're gone. That's how it works. And everyone is great with it. I have not had to fire many people in the 8-9 years I've been running this company. And even better than that is that the people that do want to be micromanaged have later come to me and said, I was wrong. I thought during my interview process, I didn't want to be micromanaged. Turns out I actually need that in my life. And I have helped them find their next job.
That's awesome. Which you kind of know me a little bit, but I'm a sports geek. And there's all those quotes of like, the game is always won or lost before it's even played, right? And playing football in high school, like, or any kind of sport, anyone who does can relate, the prep work that goes into any type of endeavor. And even when I've spoken on stage, the more prepared I am, the less nervous I am, which goes into your comment on imposter syndrome too. And I say that because you mentioned you have a pretty extensive interview process, right? You really know who you're hiring at that point, which is why you've had to fire so few people in your career. Explain that process to us as much as you can without the secret sauce. You can keep some of it.
No, I'm going to give you our secret sauce. And I'll tell you, years of trying to get it right, that when we finally got it right, we're now years into doing this process and it works. So I am the last interview for every employee, no matter what level they come in on. And
love that.
The things that happen first, and we do more than 1 or 2 or 3 interviews. We just do, because we figure by the time we have the people that you're going to work with, your team, when we have the people that are going to be on your team talk to you, ask you the questions they feel are necessary, not me, not my CTO, the other people that are going to be working alongside you. They're asking you the questions they need to know. Are you a good team member for them? That's also how you protect company culture. But then as they progress through, I don't care about skill set anymore. I know they already know if the skill set's there. I know they already know if the personality that fits with our culture is there. I know they already know if they can trust that person. By the time it gets to me, I'm no longer interviewing. I'm saying, did you ask all the questions that you needed to ask? Do you know the company that you're coming to work for? What do you need to ask of me to make sure you're making an informed decision today when I make you an offer? And then I let them name the price.
Very cool. And you would say, how long did it take for you to iron out that process?
So I would say years of being an executive prior to coming here.
Okay.
And then probably another 2.5 years. And then as we were growing, and we were growing so fast and we were hiring quickly because we just had to, we started seeing the culture of our company change. And it wasn't what we wanted. It wasn't what the core group wanted. And so There were things we did. That was when I did have to do some firing because we weren't great hirers then, and we hired the wrong people. But after that, what I started doing each time was asking my team, do you need me to hire someone else, or do you need more money? Because you have to understand, money motivates people to a certain extent. But then there's simply, life. If there are young people or people in a phase in their life where work is what they want to do, work is what makes them happy. They're not interested in being social and doing other things, and they might want to grind then and just make money. But then there are other times that people are like, this isn't a healthy balance for me. I need to see my family. I want to be able to have brunch with my friends, whatever it is that matters to them, play baseball or softball on Saturday morning. So you'll find that your team, the more that you treat them with respect, will treat you back with respect. And they'll just say, no amount of money you could offer me is going to make me want to work any more than I'm doing right now. We need to hire people. We need bodies in here to help us. And so that's the way I've always done it. And it works really nicely.
Very cool. That's awesome. And all of this, skill set, knowledge, everything you have developed at some point compelled you to put your thought on pages, right? And write a best-selling book, Trust Your Increments. What went into that thought process of wanting to take on such an endeavor like that?
Well, I thought at the time I was consulting because, I don't just run JVZoo. I run a lot of other companies, my own companies as well. And what I realized was that in consulting with other companies, I was regurgitating a lot of the same information and or retyping it in emails or whatnot. So I started just putting information down in Google Docs. So I didn't have to keep typing it over and over again and just saying, let me send this doc to this person. Let me send it to this person. Then I realized, wait, I've got a lot of information here for a book. And as I tried to round out the book and then started sharing it with other people, they gave me the feedback of like, you actually can't leave out your personal journey. You can't leave out the things you've experienced, the things that have happened to you personally, good and bad, that made you the leader that you are. So the book idea morphed, became what it became. And I thought, okay, no, I didn't. I sat on it for 2 years. I did nothing. Yeah, I sat on it for 2 years. And then after my daughter was born, and I was kind of thinking about who do I want to be now? Like I've done all these cool things up until now, but what kind of mom do I want to be? What kind of woman do I want to be that my daughter looks to? And I think for me, because I do talk about a lot of my growth and my journey along the corporate ladder, it was to be the woman who doesn't sit quiet about some things, but also is still happy and still wants to help other people. And I'm not jaded. So I wanted to put that out there to hopefully leave the world a little bit better for when she's climbing the corporate ladder or not.
That's amazing. Yeah. So give us a spoiler. Anyone who, everyone should read this. You can buy it wherever books are sold, but those lessons learned of really not staying quiet, right? Probably, the saying fear's a compass. I'm sure you felt that at a time or two. Tell us a story about, the most impactful or the one that's, comes to your brain right now.
Oh, well, there's so many. I wish there weren't, but I think there's a couple things. And one is being very clear on what your goal is. What is your goal? What do you want to accomplish? And then it makes it very easy to say yes to the things that support that goal, to the things that are going to help you accomplish that. Because a lot of times we're like, I don't want to say no. But when you're saying yes to the right things, no becomes super easy. And no is almost like an afterthought. Like those things aren't even top of mind. Because think about how much energy you've wasted in your life trying to figure out how to tell someone no. Like, oh, I just don't want to let that person down. I don't want to, I don't want to have to tell them no, but I really don't want to do that. Or worse, the times you did something you really didn't want to do that supported you in no way, shape, or form. We've all done it.
I mean, I probably have that written across my forehead at this point. How many times that I've probably said yes, whether it's to a project or a favor or something that has led not only myself, but even teams I'm leading not, down a wrong path, but just, hey, is it aligned to our North Stars that we at the beginning of the year mapped out for us, right? It's either yes or no. And it doesn't mean it's a bad idea if the answer is no, but it's not where we are headed. But even, as you set goals for yourself, was it aligned to where you were going? Within those goals for yourself personally, did you want to be a CEO from the inception of your corporate career of I'm doing what it takes to get to that point?
So I knew since I was a kid that I would eventually lead companies. I knew I was going to be a Radio City Rockette. I knew I was going to dance in New York, right, with the Rockettes. I knew that at 3. And it was not long after watching my dad run his company that I was like, I'm gonna run some companies. I didn't really know what, and I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I always dual resumed. I was always in the business world and in the dance world until I fully retired from dance.
Very cool. And did you have wanting to reach both of those goals? Did you set time limits on them? Did you have a full reverse engineer process? What that look like for you?
So for me, especially when I was younger, the main goal was to be a Radio City Rockette. And that took priority because there's also, the realistic point of view that dancers age out. So I knew that had to come first. And yes, I had a real plan for the dance jobs I was going to get, where I was technically going to move up the East Coast statewide and, until I was in New York City. And then I would not leave New York City until I danced with the Rockettes. So I had my plan mapped out. But then the week that I moved to New York City, I walked and I stood in front of Radio City Music Hall and I turned around and panned the area. And that's how I picked my next job, because I said, unlike all these people I know, and you can go into any diner in New York City and meet one of the people I'm about to tell you about. All the people that I knew that said, oh, I moved to New York City because I wanted to be on Broadway. I moved to New York City because I was going to be an actress, whatever. That wasn't going to happen to me. I was never going to lose sight of why I went there. So I seriously stood in front of the music hall and was like, I can work there. And I walked across the street and applied for my job.
Wow. And you got it?
And I got it. And then
Very
every
cool.
single day I had to walk by Radio City.
Oh.
And so I knew why I was there. And I was there a year before I got hired with the Rockettes. Yeah.
Very cool. And even one, that's awesome. And I appreciate you sharing that with us. For our audience, to kind of reeling it back just a tad into the JVZoo world, obviously being, the world's largest affiliate marketing marketplace, for people that are listening who do have, their offer, right? Their passion they've put into a product or a service, and they may not even really know about the affiliate world, right? Or opening it up into a marketplace like JVZoo. Would you advise someone to do that? If so, what type of business, revenue wise, who's an ideal target that could be like, all right, let me go look that on Google and check it out, see what they have.
Yeah. So, okay, you don't have to have any certain amount of revenue to come and use an affiliate network. And a lot of companies will use an affiliate network to jumpstart a new product, so that they can utilize other people's paid for marketing, not their own money, to go market. That's what affiliates do. They've either got their list or they're running ads, if you allow it, elsewhere. So you're not spending your own money to go market your product out there to get a lot of sales in quickly. So say you've got a new product, you want to be able to market that product as 30,000 happy users. You've got to get 30,000 paying customers first. And that's a lot easier to do with an affiliate network, where you can say, hey, we're going to launch this product here. We'll let it run. You may leave it evergreen forever on that affiliate network, or you may say, hey, we're going to do 7 to 14 days here. And then we'll pull out of here and we're going to have our customer base to get feedback from, to learn from, to tweak our product and make it perfect before we now use our own money to market it.
I feel like your experience has been so, a lot of people I've met in my life have been, like ready, fire, aim, like I'll just figure it out later. But you've really, put your ear to the ground, have been like, hey, how is this going to help said person? Because I've heard it from them. That's why I'm going to go do this, whether learning from your own experience or others. And I think that's a massive lesson to take away from this episode of, you're batting 1,000. Right? It's kind of like hit after hit because you've done it the right way.
Let's not lie to the people listening. I failed so much. I do, but I'm not afraid of failure. I fail all the time. And the reason I'm not fearful of it is because I understand that failure is a part of the process on the way to success. In order to win, you have to fail. You have to not get it right in order to win. And if you just start out and instantly win, you've learned nothing. So when you start looking at failure as like, hey, I just learned one way how not to do it. Now I'm going into the next way. It's truly just like split testing. And we love split tests, right? If we want to be our best, if we want to find out what performs the best, we're split testing. I split test in business all the time. I split test in life, my personal life all the time, because I want to live the greatest life I can live. So I'm always trying to figure out what works better. Does this work better? Does this work better? And there's nothing wrong with failing. And I just wish we could get rid of this negative stigma about failing. Our children would be happier. Collectively across our country, people would be happier because they wouldn't look at other people's highlight reels and be jealous.
Oh, that's so good. That's amazing. I appreciate you sharing that with me.
Clearly, I'm passionate about that.
Yeah, I could tell. And even, I don't know if you've ever read The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield, but goes into, fighting the resistance, right? Which is any type of gravitational pull that you feel within you. That's, any kind of higher power. If people want to, obviously I'm a God-fearing man, but for the, anything, right? It's the universe. It's any pull of that's what you should be doing. And when you're on that path, failure is required, right? It's actually part of it. And the more it's embraced, the more you can actually open up your mind and then, okay, what am I learning from this right now? And
exactly.
I love that.
Yeah, I social media is such a part of our lives now. It's never going away. We're not getting rid of it. But I wish that like one day out of the week was mandatory. You can only post your failures. I think it would totally change the health of our teenagers and a lot of adults that are so fearful of failing.
If I start it, which I might, I'm going to call you first and then we'll get on it and it'll take off from there. I tell you.
Please do. Yeah. I mean, I have friends that we do our posts and we call them not the gram because these aren't our posts for the gram, but they're our real lives.
Yeah.
And they matter more than any highlight reel you'd ever see.
I couldn't agree more. For our listeners who want to follow you more, who want to dive into anything that you're doing, where should they go?
Sure. You can go to my website, lauracasselman.com. All my social media is linked there. I do share my highlights, but I also share the real life and my stories. It's not always pretty, a lot of messy, and I'm always split testing and learning. So come follow me. And if you think I'm doing way too highlighty, just message me and say, we need to see some more real.
That's awesome. And again, Laura, thank you so much. You've an amazing career, and I look forward to following your continued success. And thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.